We didn't get my episode.
Another week is down in NFL football. You're at this point now where you're either hiding because your team sucks or you're excited about it and maybe you're posting on social media just how good your team is, or you're a Cowboys fan who always thinks you're good and relevant. I don't know what it is, but you may be one of them. May fall into the category where you want to brag about your team right now, or maybe you're just like, it's a little too early. I don't want to jinx anything because we're on a sweet roll right now. Or you're out there playing the lottery because you're a Vikings fan because everything seems to be rolling your way right now. Whatever it may be, we are at that point in the season where I talked about it before. Is your team pretenders? Are they contenders? Well, now it's starting to solidify just a little bit more. You're starting to see your team for who they really are. You know, they are out of the shadows and they are showing you their true colors. So let's talk about that a little bit more on just these teams and what they've done so far this year. But first, I am your host. I am Matthew Raridan, and this is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights, where I am your host, Matthew Raridan, and with me today is none other than Ed Smith.
Welcome, y'all.
And Thaddeus Lloyd.
Hello.
How we doing out there, fellas? You guys have a great weekend and enjoy maybe your NFL teams?
Uh,
Yeah, okay.
no.
Well, the three of us, no. You see Ed's reaction there, but yeah, this for me personally, it was kind of a tough NFL weekend to watch, but maybe for you guys out there, it was not. And I mentioned them earlier, and so we might as well just jump into this game here. If you were lucky enough to catch it, you watched it over on the other side of the pond, and that was the New York Jets versus the Minnesota Vikings, which took place over in London. Uh, what didn't really take place in London is Aaron Rodgers, because I'm not really sure where he was, but he wasn't quite there. But nonetheless, the Jets lost 17-23. They fell short of a comeback attempt. The Vikings, they just continue. They continue to really impress me, impress the NFL world, and probably impress you as well. And Sam Darnold too. We've talked, great things about him and really what he's doing there. But this is a complete team effort from top to bottom, from Kevin O'Connell to the coaching staff to I almost said Aaron Donald. Sorry, he's retired. Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson, and of course, Ed knows Aaron Jones. It really is a complete effort on their team, and it really is fun to watch because this was not really expected to happen. But if you're a fan of NFL, you like seeing this. You like seeing these players that get that second chance. I mean, shoot, look at Nick Foles, who came in and won a Super Bowl for the Eagles. This is the land of second chances. And if you are lucky enough to get that second chance, you better show that you're worth it. And Sam Darnold, although maybe on his fourth chance, he is actually showing it, where on the other hand, Aaron Rodgers isn't quite showing it after his, Achilles injury last year. 3 big interceptions in this game. It really stopped the Jets from really having that momentum and creating something. And with this Vikings team, they've showed you that if you aren't able to capitalize, they are going to continue to pretty much pour salt on the wound. And that's exactly what they did. Thaddeus, I'm going to start with you here. Actually, sorry, I'm going to start with Ed only because this quarterback played on his team before. But are you seeing some similarities with these receiving issues with Aaron Rodgers?
I am seeing it because Aaron Rodgers, being as long in the tooth as he has a certain way of going about things and expects his receivers to follow his thought process. And he gives the receivers the information that they need to follow his thought process. So when they don't do it, that is an issue for Aaron Rodgers. And he will let the world know that he is not happy with the receiving core that's there. Now, I will say Garrett Wilson is picking it up, but that's because he's Garrett Wilson. He's a top flight wide receiver that can understand the way that Aaron Rodgers is seeing things so he can run the correct choice routes, break in, break out, that type of thing. So, yes, I have seen this before. This is exactly what happened after Devontae Adams left out of Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers was left with a bunch of kids that were first, second year, including Alan Lazard, who is now with the Jets and one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite targets. So it takes a little bit to get used to the way Aaron Rodgers does things, but once you do, you're his guy and you will continue to be his guy. Right now, he is so uh, about Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers that the wide receivers not doing what he thinks they should do is a problem for him. And it's spilling over to a lot of other areas of the team.
Oh, it absolutely is, and this is a Aaron Rodgers who, when we saw in Green Bay, he had the Jordy Nelson. Then after that, he had Devontae Adams, and he was spoiled with that. He really was, and coming to a team like this, yes, Garrett Wilson is an incredible talent, but it's something that doesn't happen overnight. That because of that, and because of kind of being spoiled by those two receivers, I mean, those are two top tier receivers right there, and Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson. That it becomes that issue, and he is really making it known. He's almost in a sense pouting until he gets his way. And what's his way? It would be Devontae Adams being traded to the Jets. So we may talk about that here in a bit, but uh, he's got pieces there, and he needs to be able to work with them, but it just isn't looking fluid like we're so used to seeing with Aaron Rodgers and his receivers or receiver, depending on the situation. But on the other side, on the Vikings side, Thaddeus, Sam Darnold, he is continuing to show two different things here. One, he wasn't the problem in New York, and two, just how much a good offensive line really changes things is showing to be a really key important thing for him. So, can you shed some light as to why those things have been so important with Sam Darnold and his resurgence?
They have been monumental for him in this trek with the Vikings. He went to New York, was the third overall pick back in 2018, and it's not exactly who you are, but who you're surrounded by. More so, we're seeing that, very, very clearly the past couple of years in the NFL with the resurgences of these, quarterbacks who are in these bad organizations, got drafted kind of highly, and then they go to these different organizations who are actually well run. They've been well run for years, decades, and they're finding success. Um, and Sam Darnold, when he went to the Jets have not had a good offensive line in years. They haven't really had a good receiving core in years. You really only have Garrett Wilson, but look how that's happening right now with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a different kind of quarterback. He goes more off vibes and tempo than actual like play sheets or whatnot. It seems like, and and you can't really have that. Um, and of course, when Sam Darnold was there in New York, they also had bad defenses before Robert Saleh came along. So it really wasn't his fault that he was doing so bad because he was basically, the New York front office was like, here you go, here's the entire team, throw like 40 times a game, and that just couldn't happen with Sam Darnold. The only person who can really do that would be Joe Burrow, who can magically turn around an organization and throw for 40 times. Sam Darnold is not that guy, but he can be really good with with what happened with Jared Goff a couple years ago. Goes to the Rams, or sorry, goes to the Lions from the Rams. Lions, great offensive line, Well, now when he's in the zone, he's a top 5 quarterback easily. So it pays to have a top O line in the NFL, and especially with the weapons that he has now, Sam is much more looking like that number 3 overall pick that the Jets made him. Um, about what was like 6 years ago now, 6, 7 years ago. So
Yeah, it's been quite a bit, but I mean, shoot, the last time I think the Jets' offensive line really got talked about was, well, when the butt fumble happened. So, so that's the last time they were maybe relevant, and it wasn't a good thing. But eh, I don't really get how not everyone's really caught on, or why it's tough for people to comprehend. But a good offensive line gets you places. It really does. That should be one of the first point of attacks. It just it seems like how many years ago now? I remember when Chris Long was drafted, or sorry, not Chris Long. Was it Kyle Long? Where offensive line seemed to always be one of the first picks. Because that's the center point. Yes, the quarterback. Yes, is always the most important position, and we agree with that. But the offensive line is really where it's at. It does begin in the trenches, and when you have a great offensive line, it shows. And he's Sam Darnold is finally getting to see that, and it's starting to look great for him. Where the Jets, no, it still continues to show that where they struggle. And the Jets now have a big hill to climb, because if you did not know, there was some fallout after this, and that is Robert Saleh getting the boot. This caught a lot by surprise. Maybe not all of us, but it caught a lot by surprise. He boasted a 20-36 record. And yes, he's a defensive minded coach, and the defense was always there. It always showed up. It was great. Unlike Brandon Staley when he was with the Chargers, yes, he had some key pieces there, but defense wasn't always there. Whereas with the Jets, with Saleh, it's been there. It's just the offense. It never seems to click. And I don't know if there was a lot more tension happening behind the scenes, or if GM Aaron Rodgers had a say, even though he said recently in the Pat McAfee show he had nothing to do with this. But Robert Saleh's out. He is out. Jeff Olbrook is in. He is taking over the head coaching duties, interim, and we're gonna see if things are different here. But I'm starting to think Aaron Rodgers got his way. Ed, what do you think?
He got his way because Robert Saleh is not the type of coach that Aaron Rodgers respects. He really isn't. Because Robert Saleh is a very matter of fact coach. He's not very flexible, because he's more about defensive rigidity than he is about offensive flexibility. And that doesn't vibe with Aaron Rodgers. And part of the reason why Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets was Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
And can we all just agree at this point that outside of Green Bay, Nathaniel Hackett cannot do the job that he's been hired to do? Can we all just agree right there? Because
He can't
he's
hack
had
it.
he I he's had I want to say 26 games in which his offense only scored one touchdown or fewer in the time that he's been in New York. That is atrocious, and especially in a league in which more points, more points. The rules are bent in your favor, and you can't get more points than one touchdown a game. What is wrong with you? Whereas, uh, you take into account that, and you've got the Aaron Rodgers uh, being the head coach, the uh, offensive coordinator, the mascot, the concession guy. He runs that organization top to bottom. And that's what you were asking for with getting Aaron Rodgers, because he thinks that he has earned his way into being the general manager of whatever team that he's playing for. And that was part of the reason why the fans, including myself, soured on Aaron Rodgers. We enjoyed him while he played, but the drama was just way too much, and it it affected people's jobs. It's gotten at least 2 coaches fired. Mike McCarthy, which I agree with, and Robert Saleh. I don't know the Jets as well, so I'm going to say maybe, especially considering it's a 20-36 record and no playoff appearances. This feels to me like another one of those Kyle Shanahan assistant coach misses that we've seen in the league so far.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it'll take him to go to a different team, but at least right now it doesn't seem to really be working. But when you see the news of that Nathaniel Hackett's job was pretty much on the line, and then Robert Saleh is all of a sudden fired, and it kind of makes you scratch your head like, all right, did Aaron Rodgers really have a say in this? Because what a coincidence! Because Nathaniel Hackett is Aaron Rodgers' guy. He's made that clear. But the Jets, though, it's more than that. They've got an issue on their hand. I mean, over the last 25 years or so, the average tenure for these head coaches are less than 4 years. It's astounding. I mean, they've got 6 head coaches now, and I don't know really what Woody Johnson's trying to do, but you go from Al Groh to Herm Edwards, Rex Ryan, Todd Bowles, Adam Gase, and now Robert Saleh. It's not looking like a good trend there in New York. And all I know is that if you're a head coach or wanting to be a head coach, I would tread lightly because we know what Aaron Rodgers' track record is, and New York's big time. I mean, that is a big market there that you need to be able to bring a personality and thick skin, and some people just aren't really made out for it. So that's something to keep an eye out on. Uh, but another AFC East team to talk about in the game is that's the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans. This was the revenge game for Stephon Diggs. This was a game that we previewed, we talked about because it should be. This is Stephon Diggs' first game against his former team, the Buffalo Bills, and we know that did not end on a good note. And Josh Allen and the Bills, how are they going to come off of the upset or the beating that they got from the Ravens? Well, it really wasn't good when this game. I mean, Josh Allen was 9 for 30, which blew my mind just seeing that stat. 9 for 30, 131 yards. And yes, Houston also led by defensive minded head coach and D'Amico Ryans. Uh, I just Josh Allen started off the year MVP type of caliber year starting out, went 3-0, and then since then has not looked like the Josh Allen we're used to seeing. Or on the other side, CJ Stroud looked like the quarterback that we saw last year. Yes, he had a mistake with an interception, but he looked really good. He looked clean besides that interception. And after that comeback victory they had against Jacksonville the week before, you started to see those shades of CJ Stroud once again on what he could really do for a team. But the Bills, man, they left me more than just scratching my head. They left me with like a big old because their clock management at the end of this game over on their side. I mean, they were stacked up against their end zone here pretty much, and they had 3 straight completions. It was already a tied game where they could have pretty much just ran the clock out and went to overtime, but instead they made matters worse by then having to punt from their end zone and pretty much give an automatic field goal opportunity to the Texans, which they did perfect. I mean, they really did. So, Ed, why on earth did the Bills do this? Because it seems like they're better than that.
They think Josh Allen is better than that. And typically he is. They basically said, okay, you're Superman. Go be Superman. Get us out of our end zone and let's see if we can get you down the field and so we can kick our game-winning field goal, hop on the plane and go home. Well, that didn't quite work out. When the average play in the NFL takes about 5 seconds to run, and so that means that you are only dropping 15 seconds in 3 incompletions, you are giving time and opportunity to let the Texans make a field goal if you do not have like a 60-yard punt, which believe it or not, is very rare. After you see some of the punters that are out there, like Michael Dixon, but the the other side of this coin is the field goal kickers in the NFL have gotten to the point where 50 yards is it is an evolution to where it's easy. And I don't want to say that field goal kicking is easy. That it totally is not. But at that level, they are making it look easy. Morton Anderson was considered a kicking legend because he was one of the few in the league at that time that could hit 50 yarders. Now you've got people lining up at 60 yards and drilling field goals. Uh, so by having the punt team go out with time uh, to with leaving time on the clock for the Texans, this was destined to be a bad idea for the Bills, and it turned out we were all right.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that with the field goals because I remember at a time, if you watch NFL, you'll see that they'll towards the end of a game they'll highlight a line where a possible field goal. This is where the line they'll need to reach to get a field goal attempt. And I remember it used to be like on the 35, the 40, and it just keeps going further and further. I'm pretty sure it was the Ravens game I watched this last weekend, and the Ravens had the ball, and Justin Tucker, which we know what greatest kickers of all times, and I see the line pretty much on like the 45-yard line, and I'm like, must be nice. He's drilling it like it's nothing because that's a 62 yarder at that point.
Yep.
So it's just crazy to see the evolution of kicking and all that. But Thaddeus, I gotta ask you, we're seeing the tell of two different teams now, pretty much for their trajectory. Should we be worried about the Bills? And are we starting to see the Houston team that we saw last year?
I'd say a little bit for both of them. So for the Bills, I would be a little bit worried. Now, still, they have Josh Allen, probably still the second best QB in the NFL right now. And they're always going to be in contention for any game they're in when he's in there. But he's going to have his bad games. And this was one of his bad games. And they still only lost by 3, which is kind of crazy. Um, what lost him this game was Sean McDermott's decision making. Now, he's a defensive head coach. Defensive head coaches tend to be like more conservative, but then he made the really weird decision to pass 3 times on your own 2-yard line, which is kind of crazy. And we're like, what the heck is he doing? So Sean McDermott is a really good head coach. There's no denying that. Like, he's got his defenses going all the time, despite the injuries. They're still a really good defense. And he's been able to keep the team together for all these years. However, he's just not in that elite category because of games like this, where you're not making great end game decisions. And that's where a lot of head coaches, separate themselves from the great, good to great, is what are you going to do in crunch time? And McDermott didn't pass the test for this. So the Bills are still going to be very good. However, there is that little bit of worry that, every so often Josh Allen will probably have an off game because you kind of have to. And McDermott might not call the right plays. And then for the Texans, we're still not seeing the team that they were last year. They're still winning games. They're 4-1, one of the best records in the NFL right now, but they're just not dominating the way that they used to last year. And people are still kind of waiting for, that to happen. And they even have better pieces than they did last year. So I think it's due to the surprise factor is gone now. Like, everyone knows, like, the Texans are here. So these games are a little bit closer than they were last year, but we're still expecting the Texans to take that next gear, take that next jump. And it hasn't really happened yet. But they're 4-1. They're in control right now. So it's not too much of a worry right now for them.
Yeah, and I mean, when Joe Mixon comes back too, maybe that'll help kind of for them to have more of a well-balanced team there. I know he's dealing with injuries. I mean, a lot of their running backs are on that team. So, but these are two teams right now that are playing in divisions that aren't really the strongest right now, and that they have that going for them. So the Bills in the AFC East, that's enough said right now. And then with the AFC South, Indy's kind of on the rise right now, but it sounds like they just got hit with the injury bug. So something to keep an eye out on. But this next game here, game I should say, very lightly because it wasn't much of a game, but that's the Browns and the Commanders, and we're seeing a real deal rookie right now. We are seeing uh, history, I should say, at this point, because it seems like every week we see Jaden Daniels play, he has another record in the history books. Just seems to continue to happen, and I have been so impressed with his game. And Cleveland is not an easy defense to play. They have a lot of great pieces. They were the number one defense last year. They are dealing with some injuries there, but Cleveland is still a tough defensive team. But Jaden Daniels is just showing that his Heisman that he won last year, he's carrying that talent over to the NFL. And Washington doesn't have top tier talent, but they do have talent nonetheless. But he's just all over the field, whether he's running the ball or throwing the ball. I've been nothing but impressed with Jaden Daniels. Whereas Cleveland on the other end, it has been an embarrassment. Yes, there's been talks. Is Deshaun Watson going to get benched? Will someone else take over, whether it be Jameis Winston? And Coach Stefanski has said no, he is still our quarterback. He seems pretty adamant about that, but it's been embarrassing. This is not the Deshaun Watson that we once saw in Houston or at Clemson. This is the Deshaun Watson that we're not used to seeing at all. So it's unfortunate to see there, but I got to ask you guys, if Washington wins the division, is Jane Daniels possibly up for MVP? I mean, this would be the first time since, speaking of the Browns, Jim Brown in 1957 that a rookie won MVP.
I would say that he's in the discussion, although I don't think that he would be really considered all that much because he's a rookie. It's one of those, yes, we know you're doing really great, kid, but let the adults talk over here. That type of mentality from the voters on that.
Thaddeus, your thoughts too?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy what he's been doing. He's still putting up mind-blowing stats. Um, Unfortunately, the last episode didn't get uploaded, but in that episode, I took the Browns, and I am absolutely regretting my decision on that. Daniels has proven me wrong, but it was more so that the Browns' offense is just absolute trash with Deshaun Watson in there. It's it's really bad. And with reports saying, Deshaun Watson's given up on the team, even though, he's on the field and technically playing. It's just not a great situation. And I feel like it's now showing on the defensive side of the ball because we know this Browns defense is better than this. Like they've gotten beaten back to back weeks by not great quarterbacks, not top flight quarterbacks or right now. And it just feels like it's wearing down on the whole team. They're supposed to get Nick Chubb back in a couple weeks, but I don't know if it's going to help it if Deshaun Watson is just going to keep on playing like this. Um, and then as for MVP, we still have the race right now. We're 5 weeks in, and it's still Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Jaden Daniels. That's who we have right now. It's kind of ridiculous to think about, but that's really who it is. So it's
Yeah.
it's really funny how this NFL year is working out in the first third of the year.
Yeah, was that on anyone's bingo card? Those three players? I don't think so, but
No.
it is still an early year. But yeah, not to jump too much to another sport, but we saw, we talk about a rookie winning MVP, and Fernando Valenzuela from the Dodgers, rookie of the year, Cy Young also in the same year, and we're seeing Paul Skeens in the MLB. put up those type of numbers too. I'm not sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me on who he may be competing with in the NL for Cy Young. I know the AL's already decided with the homeboy up in Detroit, but the NL could be more wide open. And I've been criticized for saying that, but Skeens has had an amazing year, shades of Valenzuela. So I don't think that, we could be at another time in time that a rookie could win these things. And Jaden Daniels is on that trajectory this year, but it's still to be determined. There's still a full season left. I mean, there's still a lot of time left that things could change, but I'd be rooting for him for sure. I'd love seeing stuff like that. But Ed, this next topic, I want you to cover this because you've covered this before on this show. But this is the horrendous Deshaun Watson trade that we saw and how things are playing out. And I'm gonna let you actually compare to analogy here because I know you have one.
Well, this trade, I think we're to the point where we can go side by side with the infamous Herschel Walker trade of the Cowboys and Vikings of also many years ago, because that trade led to a dynasty being born. Whereas this has led to one of the better rosters in the NFL for the Houston Texans. Whereas Deshaun Watson, he is 9-8 over the last 3 seasons. Consider that 17 games over the last 3 seasons, and he's basically just over a 500 quarterback. He's not living up to his guaranteed $250 million contract, of which 75 million of it is actually guaranteed next season. So that means that the roster that the Browns will field next year is probably going to be somewhat similar to the Little Giants. That's about all they can afford at this point. But just to go through and take a look at all the picks and who they wound up being that the Texans got, just real quickly, you had Kenyon Green, John Mechie, Christian Harris, Damian Pierce, Will Anderson Jr., Kalen Bullock, Tank Dell, Camry Lassiter, Jamal Hill, Stephon Diggs, and Cade Stover. That's a great core of players that has led to this resurgence of the Texans franchise. And you know what their salary cap hit combined is? It's only 43.6. So you're talking about 40% of what Deshaun Watson, one player, is getting next year. That's what Houston is spending on all those players next year. That is advantage, game, set, match for the Texans. Whereas the Browns, they continue to be just a joke of a franchise. And I would venture to say either the Browns or the Jets probably need to go over to another country because we don't want to be associated with them anymore. Because in America, we're winners and they don't win at all.
Yeah, the Browns, they had that one good year when Baker was there, and since then things have really fallen apart for them. I mean, Stefanski has won Coach of the Year, I think, twice now, and it's just not really anything to show for it. And the city of Cleveland, the Browns, they are just continuing to just go down and down and down. I mean, you're gonna probably start seeing fans wear trash bag or paper bags on their heads again. So it's just getting that bad. They may need to clean house, but they have such a cap hit that it's just gonna really screw them over.
Are they brown paper bags?
I'd say so. I'd say so. Maybe with some brown stuff inside of it too.
It's brown paper bags for all the dog doo-doo at the dog pound.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just been embarrassing there in Cleveland. But on to the next game, and that was Sunday Night Football between the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers, my Pittsburgh Steelers. And What a tough one. Not as tough as the Bengals against the Ravens. All right, I'm just going to put that out there. But this was tough for me as a Steelers fan because it literally came down to pretty much the last play where Dallas did end up scoring a touchdown on a 4th and goal and winning the game. It was tough to see, really tough to see. And the Steelers were only in the game because of their defense. Once again, Steelers offense did not show up.
Mhm.
And the Steelers defense did because they forced some very, very big turnovers in the red zone with the Cowboys, from fumbles to interceptions. It was awesome until it wasn't, because when we needed them the most at the end, they were not there, and Dallas held their own. And what was more embarrassing is Dallas run game, which was non-existent all year, came out of nowhere, where Rico Dowdle had 87 rushing yards. I don't even think he eclipsed 20 yards in a game at all this year, and he put up 87 against us. And their longest run, I think, up into this game was 4 yards, and I'm pretty sure he had like a 12-yard and then I think a 20-yard maybe at one point. And when they said that, I was just embarrassed. But not as embarrassed as I was watching the Steelers offense. We are now back to square one where things aren't working well. The first drive was looking promising, where we end up getting a field goal. It was starting to look, I know it wasn't a touchdown, but it did look somewhat promising. But that was it. The rest of the game, they did not know how to play offense. I mean, George Pickens, who is an incredible talent, although he has quite the attitude, only had 26 yards on 3 receptions. This is a guy where you have seen his talent, where you should be able just to throw the ball up downfield, and he has a high percentage of coming down with it, and they aren't doing that. They just look lost out there. So for me, on as far as what went right, the defense. The defense seems to always go right. I'd say for about 3.5 quarters. We gave up that touchdown at the end, so that's why I gave 3.5 quarters. That does tend to go right. TJ Watt got his 100th career sack. He's a beast. He's a game changer, game wrecker. But what went wrong was clearly the Steelers' offense, or lack thereof, I should say. We don't have an identity. We are just struggling there. Yeah, Justin Fields did not throw an interception. That's great. He still seems to be clean there. But 131 passing yards, only had 27 yards on the ground for him. Where's this Arthur Smith offense? I know we're missing Jalen Warren, who is injured, but I want to see this Arthur Smith offense where we are running the ball down their throats, and then we are also getting in some good passes too. We're just not seeing that, and this is against a Dallas Cowboys team who struggles on defense, one of the worst in the league, and we couldn't really have our way with them. Very, very upsetting. Pittsburgh needs to go back to the drawing board. They need to figure some things out. I know Russell Wilson seems to be healthy again, but he to me is not the answer. I know our name still floated around the Devontae Adams trade, but they've got more issues that really needs to be solved. So that's how I am seeing things here. But ultimately, what went right is their defense, and what went wrong is their offense. Seems to be starting to be a trend here. But with that being said, like Thaddeus said, unfortunately, we ran into some technical difficulties. Our show did not upload last week, but we did make predictions, and we got the scorekeeper here, Thaddeus. So, how did things go, and what is our record looking like?
All right, so I'm going to start off with myself. I was the first person. It's the first time this year I didn't get a single game right. I got all 5 games wrong. It was
Yikes.
pretty rough for me because I picked the Bills. That was a close game. The Browns. I thought the defense was going to be better, but the offense just is barrel of the barrel. I picked the Raiders. That was a close game until it wasn't. The Niners. Well, we didn't have a kicker in the second half. We would have won that game if we had a kicker. And then the Steelers, and that game came to the last play. And someone said, when you pick games, it's you're either a genius or an absolute idiot because of 1 or 2 plays during each game. So I look like an idiot this week, and I probably was an idiot. Um, okay, but So I went 0-5. That puts my record at 11-14. Matt went 2-3. He picked the Bills. Wrong. He picked the Commanders. Got the Raiders. No. Niners. No. But he did pick the Cowboys against this team, so that was a good pick. But then Ed went 4-1 with his only loss coming for the Steelers. So that puts Ed's record at 15-10, and Matt is at 10-15. So we're all still within 3 games of each other, but Ed's pulling away because he's had 3 straight 4-1 weeks.
Yeah,
So
that's doing pretty good, Ed. So if you are a betting person, listen to Ed, guys. Listen to him. So
Money line, not the points. Money line.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. Sorry, my Steelers let you down. They let me down too. But I mean, my pick was right. I just knew the Cowboys were going to win somehow, and they did. But
did you see the crazy stat going around of Dak Prescott is the first QB to throw an interception on 2 different days on the first on one game?
oh yeah, because of the rain, the good
Yeah,
old
because of
weather
the delay.
delay. Yeah.
It was like the longest day in NFL history too. It was like 12
Oh
hours
yeah,
long or
because
something.
it started off in
London and
London. Yep.
Yeah, which is
Yep, that's a
crazy.
good point. Yeah, well, it was like, what was it? Just not even too long ago, like a month ago in baseball, because of the weather delay, you had that one player, that catcher, who played for both teams in the one game because they had to
traded him.
make up exactly where it was when that weather delay happened, and he was on the other team at the time. So I love seeing stuff like that.
Wow.
Not only was he on the other team, he was at bat
Yes.
when play stopped, and then was traded and was the catcher for the at bat at which he was subbed for in the at bat.
Yeah,
That's
it doesn't.
crazy.
I don't think there's gonna be a stat that gets crazier than that. I really don't think so. So it
How
was
do you
awesome
get
to see that.
traded midway through a game?
He didn't. So there was a weather delay, but he
Oh,
ended up getting traded before the trade deadline. But when they
oh,
made that game up because it was cut off during a weather delay, they had to recreate. They had to make up exactly where that was, and he was the batter at that
so they
time.
did it on a different day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And then after that at bat, he went back to his new team. So awesome. So awesome. I love seeing stuff like that. But on to our previews for this week. We're going to start with Thursday night football here, and that is Thaddeus's 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. And the Niners have not looked impressive. Like Thaddeus said, yes, if maybe they had a field goal kicker, things would have looked different. But this is, believe it or not unfamiliar territory. I think I saw with the Niners over the last 5 years. They have started off not the hottest team, but I expect more out of the Niners. This is a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. It has become familiarity with them. They have one of the best built teams in the NFL when healthy. Yes, they have been struck major by the injury bug, but they still got Brock Purdy there. He seems to be healthy. They have a very talented wide receiver group too. So uh, going into this game, the Seahawks they started off undefeated this year, but now they are just not looking right as well. I'm not really sure what they're doing. I know they put up a great game against the Lions, but they did come up with the loss, and they lost this last week against none other than the Giants. It doesn't really get any lower than that, but uh, the Niners have to get their crap together, and I fully expect that they will, even with an injured team here. The Niners are clearly the better team, and I think that they're going to come into this Thursday night football game pissed, even though it's in Seattle. They're going to come away with the win here. I'm going to go with the Niners over the Seahawks. Let's go 21-13. Ed?
So let's take a look at what time the Seahawks played last week, and that was the 4 o'clock kickoff window Eastern.
Yeah.
And they lose to the Giants. Then they have to get on a plane and go back to the West Coast. I'm not sure if they went back to Seattle or if they went to San Francisco directly. But to turn around and have to play on Thursday night after that type of travel schedule and turnarounds and all that stuff, I think that weighs on a team, and I've seen it weigh on teams for years. And so, with that little extra, I'm taking the Niners on this one. Uh, Brock Purdy, they've got the second best offense in the league per yards, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to take advantage of some. I'm not going to say tired bodies, but some worn out, travel weary players. So I'm going to take the 49ers in this, and I think it's going to be a lot worse than what you're saying, Matthew. I'm going to go probably 33-17.
Okay. Gotcha.
Well, here we are again. Niners, Seahawks, big rivalry game. I'm just gonna say I think Niners are gonna win 28-21. I think it's gonna be a close game. However, we got both teams lost last week, and this division is like crazy weird. You got the Seahawks on the top at 3-2. Then you got the Cardinals at 2-3, Niners at 2-3, and then the Rams at 1-4. And the reason the Seahawks lost and they looked really good the first three games. Their competition wasn't that great though. That's what everyone was saying. Is like, what if they played real teams? Well, they've played the Lions a real team. They lost that game. The defense looked pretty bad, but they've been missing their top 2 to 3 pass rushers the past couple weeks. I don't know if they're getting him back this week or not. But the defense has not looked great without those pass rushers. And then they played the Giants and they couldn't get home against Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones just played in structure and they won the game. So you have that. And then you have the Niners, who, while statistically they are one of the best teams, and I don't have worries about that offense, it's more so about the defense. Nick Sorensen has not been doing a great job. And that's why you've been hearing the rumors like, do the Niners get Robert Saleh back? Like we want that to happen again. Although Robert Saleh did say he's going on vacation or something with like his 8 kids. I don't know. But he's going to be a hot commodity for defensive coordinator next year for sure. But right now, the defense hasn't been great. They've been very spotty. And then the Niners' red zone offense has been really not great. I think against the Cardinals or this year, they've been like 7 or 9 for 22. It's not been great. Like Matthew said in the stats, or Ed, they're second in offensive yards. Like they keep on putting up the yards. They almost put up 400 yards against the Cardinals, but the offense only scored 16 points because there was a blocked kick for return for a touchdown. So red zone can be fixed. The defense might take a little bit more time, but I think the Niners have the edge in this game regardless.
I remember when Cliff Kingsbury went on vacation. Yeah. But
Thailand.
yeah, Thailand. Yeah. I got asked Thaddeus, are we ever going to see Christian McCaffrey this year?
I don't know. With the things he has in his leg, I forgot what it was called, but he's got it in both legs. And from what I heard is that most like normal people, it takes about 1.5 years to recover from. Well, of course, he's in Germany, I think, right now or something, but he was getting just advice from doctors. And they're saying he could potentially be back like mid-November, but realistically, I'm not thinking he's going to be available until the playoffs. So I do think that the Niners will be able to make the playoffs. They can go to it without Christian McCaffrey, but they're not going to win the Super Bowl without Christian McCaffrey.
The Madden curse is alive and well. Speaking of Cliff Kingsbury, Washington Commanders going in to face the Baltimore Ravens, which should be the game of the week type of feel with how these teams are playing. Such a collision course. In my opinion, Baltimore is looking like one of the best teams in the NFL. I know the Chiefs are undefeated, so of course they'll be at the top. But Baltimore is looking like a team you do not want to face. They're playing some really smash mouth football. Lamar, I'll tell you what, Lamar made that play against the Bengals was such an incredible play. I mean, that was an MVP caliber play that he made there, from fumbling the snap, picking it up on like his third try, a mean Derrick Henry type of stiff arm on a defensive lineman to running towards the out of bounds and heaving the ball up to Isaiah Likely in the end zone was such a phenomenal play. And when you see something like that, you are like, man, this team is just clicking. They are just, everything's going right for them. Shoot, we've seen that. We've seen Patrick Mahomes make those plays, and that's when you're like, gosh, this team, they're impossible to beat when they make plays like that. Well, Baltimore right now is impossible to beat. They really are. They are having fun. They are just, they're being studs out there. They are outplaying every team that they're playing. And you look at their roster, and there, besides Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, not a lot of names are popping out to you. All right. Zay Flowers isn't having the best year so far. Rashad Bateman, that's not really popping out. Isaiah Likely is not really popping out to you. But whatever they're doing, they are doing it right. Derrick Henry, although he didn't have the best game really early on against the Bengals, we saw the rush that he had in overtime, which sealed the victory for them. Lamar Jackson is doing Lamar Jackson things. And Jaden Daniels is having an incredible year so far. And I really want to see what he does in this game, because this is a big test right here against the Baltimore Ravens team, their defense, Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphreys, this Kyle Hamilton. This is one of the best defenses he's going to face. So that's my biggest question going in here, is how are we going to see him do in this big, very big first test? Because you're facing off against the current and future kings of the quarterback position, Lamar Jackson, and then, of course, the running back position, Derrick Henry. So is this going to be kind of a foreshadowing of what Jaden Daniels could do in the NFL? So for me, I'm going to go with Baltimore in this game with everything that they're doing. I think they're going to humble Jaden Daniels, which is great. That is a rookie needs to be humbled to really see things, and I think that's what's going to happen in this game. I got Baltimore winning this. Let's go 32-17 in this game. Thaddeus? Oh, I think you're muted, Thaddeus.
Whoops, I
There
didn't mean to do
there
that.
we go.
I would agree with you. I also have the Ravens in this game. And the big reason Jaden Daniels is having success is because Washington is currently second in the league in rushing yards per game. They're averaging over 170 yards per game, which is crazy. Robinson, Eckler, excellent backs. They are doing a phenomenal job, and that's been giving Jaden Daniels time to throw on like play action, and the defenses are so worried about the run that Jaden Daniels can now just run it himself, or he can throw it to wide open receivers with how Cliff Kingsbury is making this offense run. However, you are now going against the Ravens, who have the number one rush defense in the NFL. They're allowing 60 yards per game. So, which is a 110 yard difference. And I don't know if Jaden Daniels can overcome that. The Ravens not only have a good run defense, but they also have a good pass defense too with their secondary. So I'm going to agree. I think Jaden Daniels is going to struggle. But like you said, rookies need this experience. They're going to need to be humbled. They humbled CJ Stroud last year in his playoff game. And I think they're going to do it again to a rookie Jaden Daniels. And Washington's run defense is not great, because guess who's number one in rushing in the league? It's the Ravens, with over 210 yards a game, which is where they were when Lamar Jackson, 2019 MVP season. Those are the kind of numbers that they're putting up right now. So, and Washington is ranked 22nd in rush defense right now. So I got the Ravens also in a blowout. I got them winning 31-10.
Ed?
I am a clean sweep on this one because, like you said, Thaddeus, as good as the rushing offense that the Commanders have, the Ravens are a little bit better. As good as a passing offense that the Commanders have, Lamar Jackson's a little bit better. And it just, you throw that on top of, I don't think Commanders defense is as strong as what the Ravens defense is. So you're going to see a larger disparity on that side of the ball, and that's going to lead to a much larger uh, point differential. I would certainly expect to see Jaden Daniels not go down without a fight. So I'm going to expect this to actually be a little closer and actually not not as much as a high scoring game. I would expect it to be uh, say 20 to 15 is what I'm expecting, just because I I think Jaden Daniels is going to do something in this game that's going to make our jaws drop, but it won't be enough because the Ravens will have had the ball so much that he Jaden Daniels is not going to be able to be Superman the way that he was at LSU.
Yeah, and not only that, but with these two teams running the ball so much, we know that the clock is going to continue to run. So it's going to be hard to really uh, come back from something where if the clock's already pretty much being run out. And both these quarterbacks on these teams are their number two rushers too. And they're putting up great yardage. So it's not like they're just their number two rushers that these teams don't run. They clearly do run, but they are amazing runners.
Is this going to be the shortest game of the year?
It very well may be. That's the thing, is that this very well may be one of the quickest games that we see, literally and figuratively, because these quarterbacks are quick.
Yep.
So, next game here, uh, you know, only we had our very own David Street here. He would love to talk about this game, but really quick to the audience out there, David, who is a Tampa native, is on the move right now, going towards Alabama because of Hurricane Milton. So, thoughts and prayers go out to everyone that's in that area. It is very scary. I can't imagine. I've never lived in an area like that. So, my thoughts and prayers go out to all the families there. That I hope that you guys are safe and continue to stay safe throughout this time. But if David was here, I'm sure he'd mention that. He'd be mentioning his Tampa Bay Bucks. So, in honor of David, we'll talk about his Bucks and Saints, his Bucks against the Saints here. And I know he has been very impressed with Bucky Irving. I have to say that because he has told me that. He has texted me that. And I'm an Oregon fan, all right? Bucky Irving, running back from Oregon. He's impressed me too in the NFL. I really like what I'm seeing with what he's doing in Tampa. It really looks like he belongs there, and he's having a blast down there. So, shout out to Bucky Irving, Oregon Duck alum there in Tampa. I've always been a fan of Baker Mayfield. I've talked about it on here before. Uh, he has he's really had quite the resurgence in the NFL. He's going to be facing off against this New Orleans Saints. They're going to look a little different here because Derek Carr is down with injury. We are going to see his NFL debut, Spencer Rattler. And I am so excited for this because I've seen a Spencer Rattler player really grow in his career in college. From high school to going to college, starting out in Oklahoma, ending in South Carolina, we saw this quarterback grow. And quite honestly, I was shocked to see how much he fell in the draft. That was disrespectful, in my opinion. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I fully expect to see a Spencer Rattler quarterback really show his worth in this game. It is going to be his first game, so there is going to be some rust there, and you're going to see some mistakes. I'm going to go with Bucks in this game. They've got the experience. They've got that kind of that mojo. I'm seeing a lot of great things with this Bucks team. Yes, they came off a loss against Atlanta in overtime, but Baker is cooking. He is throwing the ball. He is having fun out there. It's hard for me to bet against them, so I'm going to go with the Bucks winning this game. I think it's going to be pretty close, though, and I think that Spencer Rattler is going to hold his own here. I'm going to go with a 27-24 Tampa victory. Ed?
It's funny how Spencer Rattler and Baker Mayfield will be playing on the same field for the first time during the week of OU Texas, the Red River shootout. because wasn't Spencer Rattler who got benched for Baker Mayfield during the Red River Shootout?
It was actually Caleb Williams.
Caleb, okay,
But I see
okay,
what you're saying, though. But it's still quite a yeah.
yeah. So just for that, um, at this point, I'm actually going to take the Saints in this one. I think this is going to be a gadget play kind of offense with the Saints this week, and we'll see Alvin Kamara get a lot more attention. Uh, Chris Olave is going to get a lot more attention, and it's going to take a lot of pressure off of Spencer Rattler. And the Buccaneers do not have Spencer Rattler NFL version as much on tape. So typically we see a quarterback making his first start somewhere around mid-season have success for the first game or two, and that's where this sits for me. So I'm taking the Saints. I'm gonna say it's gonna be pretty ugly though. We're and ugly as in uh, 19 to 19 to 13.
Okay. Thaddeus.
That's very interesting, Ed, because I don't take rookie quarterbacks. I don't like them. You got to show me first. And rookie QB in his first start versus a pissed off Tampa team is not good. I do think Rattler, I don't know him. I didn't watch college tape. It's a blank slate to me when college players enter the NFL. It doesn't matter which draft position you were in, just show me what you got. Um, I do think they'll probably be able to put at least up, 2 touchdowns, I think. But it won't be enough because Tampa had that devastating loss against the Falcons on Thursday night. First exciting Thursday night game in a while, to be exact. But they got to just be like kicking themselves because they could have easily won that game, and they don't want to lose 2 straight division games in a row. Plus, you got a QB in his first start, and Baker Mayfield has looked unstoppable 4 out of the 5 games that he's played. So I've got the Bucks 30-17 in this one. Oh, and also one more note is the Saints have also lost back their games because Taysom Hill has been injured both games, and he's not expected to play in this game, I believe, either. So
Yeah, Taysom's their heart and joy, that's for sure. Their heart and soul, I should say. But yeah, okay. This next game, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Denver Broncos. Chargers coming off of a bye, and I'll tell you what, they started off the year great because they were such a run heavy team, and their losses that they've had this year, they barely ran it. I don't know why they went away from that, but that is their strong suit right now. That is a Jim Harbaugh strong suit. So why go away from that? Both these teams struggle on offense, and it sucks to see because, well, Justin Herbert being an Oregon Duck, and well, Bo Nix also being an Oregon Duck. It's gonna be fun watching this game, but these offenses are really struggling, and I need to see the Chargers go back to that running game because that's where they succeeded. Denver, on the other hand, they're starting to get a nice rhythm here. You're starting to see the Sean Payton offense, Bo Nix starting to learn the game more. The NFL, it is a different speed. It is completely different than college. There is an adjustment period, and you're starting to see that there. But this Denver Broncos defense is also being legit. Patrick Surtain is having a phenomenal year on the defensive side of the ball and is really helping carry this team. Whereas on the other hand, the Chargers, the great defense also, but you're not seeing the big plays really happen as much as you are seeing it on the Denver side of the ball. This one here is still going to be an ugly game to me. It's a toss up. I'm struggling to even pick a victor here, but I think I'm going to have to go with Denver in this game. I'm gonna go 13-10 Denver. It's not gonna be a high scoring game at all. Bo Nix is starting to show some good things in the NFL, so he's got the hot hand. So I'm gonna go with Denver 13-10. Thaddeus.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. You got the Chargers coming off the bye. They were injured last time they played the Chiefs, so they kind of blew that game. I believe they're getting a couple people back. I think they're getting Justin Herbert and Joe Wall back, which should be huge. Um, but it's going to be interesting because you got Jim Harbaugh. He's got this defense going. They've been pretty good actually, and you got to go in against you got to take their offense, the Chargers offense versus the Broncos defense, which has been elite this year. Um, and the Broncos offense with Bo Nix has been slightly picking it up, I'd say. But yeah, this is a really hard game for me to pick. Um, just looking at it here, oh gosh, I'm gonna go with the Chargers. I'm gonna go with the Chargers on this one. Um, I just think somehow John Harbaugh will find a way to win. But I got this game like 13-10.
Ed.
So I'm in a bit of a quandary because isn't Justin Herbert back at full strength after the bye week?
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably still hurting a little bit, but yeah, full strength
Well,
ish.
He said it was a limited participant in practice. So
okay. Well,
He's
he's still Justin Herbert. He's
yeah,
still got elite arm talent, and
yeah.
he's finally getting some wide receivers that he can be on the same page with. Which that I I realize he had great wide receivers last year, but they were way too expensive to keep. So we are where we are. And at, that is what you said about taking rookie QBs. I get you on that. And that's why I'm taking Justin Herbert in this one. I'm taking the Chargers uh, to be a little more fluid with their offense after the bye week than what Bo Nix is showing right now. So I'm taking the Chargers 23-17.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a close game nonetheless. So, and that's what it sounds like with all of our scores here. So, yeah, how the Chargers are gonna show up after the bye, and if they could get back to that run game, I think would be a big key to the victory for them. So, we'll see on that game. This next game should be a no brainer. I have a feeling that we're probably gonna go all three of us on this one, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Giants. New York Giants didn't really have much business winning last week's game against the Seahawks, but they did win. A win is a win. I've always said that. Bengals, on the other hand, they are probably pissed off. Okay, I was pissed off for them because I would hate to see my team lose like this. Where I mean, they had a 10-point lead with about 4 minutes left, and well, you left the ball in Lamar's hands, and he did Lamar things, and he gave you a chance actually in overtime, fumbled the snap, and gave you pretty much a game-winning field goal with a great kicker and Evan McPherson. And this was by no means his fault. The holder just fumbled it. I mean, he just really fumbled the snap there and gave Baltimore the ball back to easily win the game. Bengals should be pissed off. They started showing you signs of who their team really is, and that is Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Okay. Just do that every play and you're pretty good. But the Bengals are probably going to win this game easily. They really should. Their defense needs to get a little bit better, but they did play a stud in Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. But they're going to go into New York. They're going to go MetLife Stadium, and they're just going to have fun with them. They're going to play around with their prey, and they're gonna win this game. I'm gonna go 28-10 in this game. Bengals. Ed, what are you thinking in this game?
Oh, I think we should have all just said the name on the count of three.
Yeah.
One, two, three. Bengals.
Yeah.
It's because how in the world do we not expect the offense of the Bengals to be better than the defense that New York is trotting out? And even if they the Giants defense can keep up, the Giants offense is so turnover prone that you're going to wind up giving the Bengals short fields, and that's not going to go well for them at all. It's baffling to me that the Giants have a better record than the Bengals at this point, but they're going to be the same after this game. I don't foresee there being much issue with that idea. So I'm taking the Bengals. I'm taking them 28 to probably 10.
Yeah. Look, last week the Ravens had a tough time even keeping up with this offense. So let that be known. Ravens got a great defense. So New York's they're gonna have a tough time. I feel like keeping up with the Bengals going into this game. Thaddeus.
Um, well, I wanted to take the Giants, but I want to protect my record right now. So I'm gonna take the Bengals as well. Although I do think this is going to be a closer game. I go off recency bias. The Giants looks pretty good actually against the Seahawks. I think. Um, Now because that Bengals offense is incredible. They would have won that game if they would have thrown the ball in overtime instead of running it, which Zach Taylor did. So now people are questioning Zach Taylor for that decision because Joe Burrow was having the game of his life. But then you have the Giants, who actually the offense has been pretty functional this year. That's my bad. The Giants' offense has been pretty functional this year, even with Daniel Jones. He's been playing in structure. They found a good back, I think, in Tyrone Tracy from last week against the Seahawks defense. He was gashing them. And but but the Bengals are 1-4, which is not good. And people are like, oh, they're going to the Super Bowl. Well, they're probably not going to the Super Bowl this year after the first 5 weeks, but they do need to get that rebound going on. So they're going to have to win this week because if they do not win this week, it's going to be some maybe we're going to fire Zach Taylor halfway through the season kind of talk, just like they did with Robert Saleh, because that door is blown wide open now. So I do have the Bengals winning this one. It's going to be closer than most people expect, but I do have them winning 31-24. That I think the Giants are going to score more points than people think because that Bengals defense has not been good, especially with those injuries. And I believe Malik Neighbors is coming back for this game as well, which he was their offense the first 4 weeks. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, we'll say, Bengals lose this game, you could fully expect Bill Belichick to be the next head coach in Cincinnati.
Well,
um,
he's already on to Cincinnati, so
he's already. I was waiting for it, Ed. He's yep. So, uh, yeah, but Neighbors is going to be a great contributor for New York. Getting him back is huge. Coming off a concussion, and he had to miss last game. He's eager to go out there. He's probably behind Jaden Daniels, probably the second best rookie in the, so far in this year. So that is a storyline to keep an eye out on. But Bengals, they don't want to be in this territory of being 1-4. They don't want to be in the 1-5 at all. So I think that they're just going to come out fighting in this game. So that is our picks here. If you guys differ with our picks, I'd like to hear what you have to say in the comment section. Let us know your predictions and maybe another game that you think that we should keep an eye out on. But if you could hit that like, subscribe button, share these videos as well, we would also appreciate that. We always love your guys' feedback and your thoughts. So that is always something that we want to hear from you guys. And lastly, like I said before, thoughts and prayers to anyone in Florida, Tampa area specifically. Just get shelter if you haven't left yet, and please be safe. So thoughts and prayers from us here at Total Sports Talk for you guys in Florida. But until next time, guys, we are rounding third and we are headed for home.